This is video 142.1, Fleetville's 3 airports. This is a redo of video 142. I had downloaded a video in a search for free pictures or video and inserted a short video into my video to show a DW-21 being loaded and unloaded. There were no references on the video. I looked at it as no different than me putting up a video about my resident wood ducks. It turns out that the person who uploaded the video became upset and reported me to YouTube for a copyright violation. YouTube is owned by Google, who told me it was free to start with. Then they sent me a really nasty letter and pulled video 142. The narration will be the same, except I edited out the problem section and added a verbal description in its place. Here we go. There are 3 airports within a 3-mile radius of Fleetville Corners. I had the pleasure to have some work on all 3. The first was the actual Fleetville Airport. There's not been a working airport for over 30 years. The hangar is now the Fleetville Volunteer Fire Company Firehouse. There is a full-size ball field and what looks like 2 long fields divided by a row of trees. There is also a long gravel road down the center the full length. My first official job was graduating high school. After graduating high school, I was working as the administrative secretary for TSI Heavy Equipment School, located alongside of Interstate 81 north of exit 201. It had been a truck driving school for about 30 years now. Whenever I had an opportunity to sit in the classroom for a while or actually learn to run and operate the various machines, I took maximum advantage of it. After a couple classes graduated, the instructors had me giving lubrication classes in a white shirt and tie to prove it can be done without getting covered with dirt and grease. I became pretty proficient with the dozers, loaders, and graders. I didn't get a chance to run the scrapers much, just 2 or 3 times, but it was fun though. If you saw or remember the movie Tango and Cash with Kurt Russell and Sylvester Stallone, along with Hazleton's own Jack Palance, you may remember Tango and Cash driving 2 scrapers side by side through a building. They were 631s if I remember correctly. They were the next newer model to the DW-21s. The DW-21s had a 5-speed manual transmission, 5 forward, 1 reverse. Of course, there was a clutch and air brakes. The tractor was turned by a steering wheel that activated hydraulic cylinders. The DW-21s had a top speed of about 35 miles an hour, but when fully loaded, they weighed 80 ton or more. There aren't many buildings that could stop that amount of rolling mass. Scrapers were used to get within a workable level, and bulldozers were then used to level the surface closer to grade, say a couple of inches. Graders were then used to fine-tune the final grade. The skill of operating a scraper was in coordinating 3 functions at the same time. The first was raising and lowering of the bowl so the cutting edges would be at least close to creating a level cut. Next, raising and lowering the apron, kind of like a garage door, to allow the dug dirt to roll into the bowl. At the same time, the back plate needed to move back slowly, allowing the dirt to pile up to create a full load. All 3 components had to be controlled at the same time. Oh yeah, you had to steer and shift too. To unload, the back plate came forward and the apron and bowl helped meter the dirt out into low areas to make them close to level. Like I said, I was only on one 2 or 3 times. I always want to get more experience, but the timing never worked out. The school got a contract to create the Fleetville Airport. We started in February. It was darn cold. None of the machines had cabs except the graders, but they wouldn't be needed for some time. Dozers and scrapers were tasked to get the full length of the airstrip to a fairly close design of grade first. School classes were running during the week and the students went home for the weekend. The instructors and I worked on the airstrip on the weekend. The ground was frozen and there was a lot that needed to be moved. I was assigned to push the scrapers with a D8. I learned an important lesson right away. The ground was frozen and very hilly, kind of like big waves. As I was pushing Bill Vavrishak's scraper, we went down into a dip and started up over a hump. The scraper was almost on top. I was pushing at a steep angle. I started lifting the back of the scraper off the ground. As I was about to the top of the hump, I got scared. I had lifted that fully loaded scraper about 6 feet off the ground. I could see under it. I threw out the master clutch. The push block fell off the blade and the back tires of the scraper bounced 4 or 5 times. Bill, sitting on that two-wheel tractor mounted on the gooseneck of the scraper, bounced about 15 times in the seat. He shook himself a little and stood up. He tipped the seat forward and picked up a piece of 2x4 that was used to keep the seat tipped and dry in bad weather. Bill jumped down and stomped over to me. He looked up, shaking the 2x4, and hollered, "Don't you ever break contact. Never, ever break contact. Scrapers pull away. That's it. Never break contact." I never did again. Once classes started up again, I was very busy. The students were placed with highway and bridge building contractors working on the construction of the interstate highway system in various parts of the country. I had to stay in touch with the 60-member contractors that were part of District 50 United Mine Workers and get apprenticeship info on the students they hired from the school. Being it was a federally subsidized training program, I had to give weekly reports to the Federal Department of Labor, Pennsylvania Department of Labor, Pennsylvania Department of Education, the Bureau of Employment Security in Carbondale, request funding from Congress every quarter, make payroll, pay corporate taxes, keep books, and be a receptionist too. Oh yeah, on Friday, after normal hours, I had to strip and wax the office floor. Too bad there were only landlines, the typewriters, stencils, and a mimeograph machine, envelopes and stamps to do the correspondence. I was audited for 3 days by the Treasury Department too. They found no discrepancy. It sure would have been nice to have email in those days. In my spare time, I was mother hen to 212 students. Took care of their unemployment check problems, health problems, etc. I was on salary of $100 per week. This was 1967-68. They got their money's worth. I learned a heck of a lot about people as well as all the government stuff and made some good friends too. My boss was also Governor Scranton's top aide. Lots of stories there. With all that going on, I didn't have much time to work at the airstrip. They had to put in a good-sized drain field and bury some overhead power and telephone lines. Once that was dug and the wires and pipe laid, a fellow with a small Oliver dozer pushed gravel in the ditch to cover the pipes. We had a mechanic who was short in stature. He fired up the D9. The fuel tank was behind him. It was higher than his head. He didn't notice that cute little Oliver behind him and backed over it like a tank in a movie. Not pretty. My boss had to pay for the little Oliver and the mechanic became unemployed. The gravel was all in, only the backfilling was needed. That fell to me on the weekend. I worked alone with a Cat 933 track loader. After I got the backfill done, I dug a big catch basin at the end of the drain field. I made it about 10 feet deep and perfectly round. The instructors fine graded and the design and the grass was planted. And that concludes the remake of video 142, first of 3 airports. All the best, folks. All the best.